Welcome, everybody. And thanks for being a part of this conversation because it's about you, the true you. And welcome to my partner in this, Bill Tierney.
Hi, everybody.
What would somebody come to you for coaching for?
A lot of people come to me because they are seeking support in exploring their internal world using the IFS model.
Mm-hmm. And IFS stands for
internal family systems.
And for people who that's not a concept I know most of our listeners probably do know, but in case there's somebody on that doesn't, what is that?
Well, before I go there, I want to finish what I was about to tell you. That your question was, what do people come to me for? And so the first part of that answer is that many people find me and come to me because they want to explore their internal family using the IFS model. Mm-hmm. And then once we connect in the 20-minute introduction that I have set up on my website, I explain to them that, yes, I'm trained. I've been trained in using IFS for the last 6 years or so, but I'm a coach and not a practitioner, or not. When I say I'm not a practitioner, I am a practitioner, but I'm a coach specifically.
As opposed to a
therapist. Right. And so IFS it's tricky because IFS is a therapy model. And as a coach, I've really worked hard to get clear for myself, and therefore to get clear with prospective clients what I do and don't do. Mm-hmm. And so while I'm capable of just walking someone through an internal family systems exploration of their parts and trailheads, I do that in the context of coaching, meaning that I help people identify the changes that they'd like to make in their lives. And then I use the IFS model to help them discover what parts are reacting to the desire for those changes. Mm-hmm. By doing that, we build trust between the self, the authentic, true you of the client, mm-hmm. and the parts of them that have been busily, devotedly, brilliantly trying to protect them all their lives. And so once that happens, once trust is built, now we can begin to form alliances between the parts that would oppose the coaching objective, whatever wants to be changed, right, and the parts that want that change. I'll have to figure out a shorter way to say that, but that's who I work with. And not everybody that comes to me for IFS decides that they want coaching. Many of them want a therapist where they just focus on the healing, improving functionality in their lives, figuring out ways to be more regulated and that sort of thing. That's more in the wheelhouse of therapy.
And just out of curiosity, just to cover all the bases, does anybody ever come to you and not want IFS? I want you to coach me, but don't do that IFS thing.
I haven't had that experience.
Sounds like a no. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So our topic for today is an exercise that you've invented. Now, did that come out? Can you relate that to IFS, or is it unrelated?
It's related for sure, but not directly. There's a story behind it, which I hope you'll allow me to indulge in.
I'd love to hear it.
Okay. Another model of, let's just say, personal development that's been around about as long maybe as IFS is nonviolent communication. And many more people, I believe, are probably familiar with nonviolent communication than internal family systems. They merge and marry nicely. It wasn't until this past year or so that, after hearing from so many people how great NVC, nonviolent communication, is, I finally got the book and listened to it on my walks and my runs and my drives. And then I loved it so much that I got another book by Marshall Rosenberg. Speaking Peace was the name of the second book. Mm-hmm. Essentially the same ideas, but Marshall spoke about them just in different language and in different tempo maybe than he did in the first book. And one of the first things that he talks about and teaches in his books is the idea of noticing what is alive inside. Mm-hmm. And I loved that question. What is alive inside? And this is one of the ways it ties in for me with internal family systems, is that we want to know what's happening in the internal world. Not so we can change what's happening in the internal world, although that's often the reason we go in there in the first place.
Yeah.
But if we go in there with an agenda to change what's happening in there,
Hardly.
every part is going to be blocking us off.
Don't change me.
You're the one that needs to, or this guy over here needs to change, not me.
Yeah.
Right. So what's alive inside is just such a great invitation just to notice what's happening and just to bring broad awareness to what's happening inside. And by that, I've come to understand that what's alive inside means what am I experiencing, what am I perceiving, how am I reacting to what I'm experiencing and perceiving. What's alive in my nervous system, what's alive inside with my thoughts, what's alive inside with my emotions, my body sensations, my impulses, and my behaviors. All of that, which is just also so useful in the internal family systems as we're trying to detect the different parts of us.
Yeah, can I ask? This is a general question that as I've been getting recently, and I think it's even more poignant for the work that you do, since it's calling out the internal relationship,
Yes.
right? The relation and the question that a number of people have raised with me. These are mostly friends, not clients. Just
Yeah.
by the way, they're like, "Well, it sounds like the work that you guys do," they say, "isn't going to change anything. It's just going to have you be more docile this in this world. Like you're just going to change your attitude toward the horrors that are out there."
I see. I see. So you're saying that your approach to coaching or your personal life philosophy is landing for people in such a way that they wonder what if it has value.
Well, frankly, they're not well informed about what I do,
I see.
but they
Well, what?
have this impression, and I wonder if it isn't like more pervasive than just the few people that have brought it to my attention. And I just thought maybe it'd be worth addressing that, like
Yeah, yeah. And before I do, I'm just curious about what prompts that kind of question from your friends. Why do they ask that question?
I think the word navel gazing came up. Right? They think that what this
Yeah,
work that we do is just like it's all just internal.
just
It just
indulgent.
doesn't really change anything out there.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. I don't, why do I think that's funny? I suppose because I remember having that kind of an attitude myself.
Ah,
Like, what's the point of all this navel gazing? Just, is it going to make any difference? And really, that's the question you say that they're bringing to you, right? Or the challenge that they have for you. What difference does that make in the world?
I don't mean to get you off track from the topic,
Well, no,
but
it's okay.
I just, as soon as you started talking about Marshall Rosenberg and the IFS internal family, I was reminded of this criticism that's out there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, so what difference does it make? And I'll answer you because I know that you really want to know an answer. I'll answer because I feel safe with you and I'll assume safety with my listeners. And the reason I'm setting it up, my answer in this way, is because if I were in the presence of someone who was asking the question to set up the next hatchet to come at you
Mm,
with, I would probably not engage in the conversation whatsoever.
yep.
It goes along with the idea that if you want to teach a cat to sing, it's not going to work very well, and you're going to irritate the cat. And I am not going to go to the hardware store if I'm a baker and try to have them sell my bread for me. You got to have the right people in front of me,
Mhm, mhm,
and those people aren't gullible people. Those are people that are open and critical self-thinkers, people that take information in and consider whether or not it's valid, whether it's interesting, and whether it's something they want to continue to pursue and get to know and understand better for themselves. And then
mhm,
ultimately decide for themselves what is and isn't true and what is and isn't valid and useful.
mhm.
My answer, though, is does this work make a difference? And my answer to that is absolutely it doesn't. Otherwise, I wouldn't be using it with my coaching clients.
Mhm,
I'd already been coaching people for 8 years by the time I began my training in the internal family systems model.
mhm,
And I had effectively been able to help people make changes in their lives by using various tools to help them shift their mindset, so that the impact of the way they thought about their lives was more empowering. The problem turned out to be that whatever challenge they were up against was a challenge because of their thinking. And once that thinking was examined and explored, investigated using various methods, we could shift from a more empowering perspective. And I'm not talking about positive thinking. I'm talking
Right.
about what is true and what's not.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the facts rather than our stories about the facts, for example. So
That seems like a really crucial matter. Like, if your mindset, this internal stuff that we're talking about, is giving you, filtering the data out there and giving you a false impression about what's true, then you'd want to get to work on that first so that you can actually experience what's true.
yes, but you also need to buy into an idea that I had a little trouble buying into when it was first introduced to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that is that my suffering is related to how I perceive the world. I believed that my suffering was related to what the world was doing to me.
Yes, right.
This happened out there. I don't like it. Therefore, I'm suffering. Therefore, I need to change what's happening out there. That's
Mm-hmm.
fine. I'll quit my job. I'll quit this relationship. I'll move
Mm-hmm.
because I don't like what this feels like in here. And it's your fault. So when I went to Byron Katie in 2001, when I was introduced to her, and she said, anytime I believe a thought that argues with reality, I suffer, but only 100% of the time. It was the first time I really got what Viktor Frankl's was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Between stimulus and response is there's a space, and in that space we have the opportunity to choose. That's not exactly what he said, but basically that's it. I didn't ever get that. I mean, it sounded good, but I didn't really get that. What is the stimulus? What is this space? What is the ability to respond and choose? What? Until Byron Katie really helped me see that even the reverse of what she said is true. She said, when I argue with reality, I suffer.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole conversation right there. And if we reverse that, I'll finish this thought and then I want to hear your question or your thought. If I'm suffering, it's because I'm arguing with reality.
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
You were
Mm-hmm.
about to say something.
Well, I like your approach. It sort of says, I mean, I'm being very general here, but like, it works. This is why we do it, because it works,
Right.
and I think that then your interlocutor can just either try it or not and find out. I think the mistake that I've made is when answering this is that I go into this more explanation about how the true you, it's what's generating what you consider real. That's really the source of it all. And that's a pretty big step to take. And I've already lost them. And I didn't even get to go on to explain how
Uh-huh.
that really works. I like your approach better. It's like, well, I think you'll see it works. And then you've got a little bit of an explanation. Why? Because if you're suffering, you're out of sync with reality, and
And if I'm suffering, I'm disempowered. And if what causes suffering is I'm misaligned with reality, then what can I do to get aligned with reality?
yeah. So I take it that I don't want to cut you off from this conversation, but I'm also feeling a little like I'm taking away from where you wanted to go.
Well, let me tell the story. And so the name of this podcast episode is probably going to be six prompts for connection. And he,
6 prompts for
prompts.
connection.
Yeah, I was going to call it 6 questions for connection, but it's actually prompts. Some are questions and some are suggestions. And the idea is that when we're in relationship with another human being and we want to feel connected in that relationship, that this practice, if there's an absence of connection, will bring connection
Mm-hmm.
to the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
If using that word that you used just a moment ago, misalignment. If there's a misalignment in the relationship, we're missing each other, we're not aligned, and we're not connecting. We feel that, and even today, even now, in my relationship with my wife, we've been married now for 12 years. We've been together for about 14. when when things happen inside that are uncomfortable in my relationship with her, I have a tendency to think it's her. It never has been. And that doesn't mean that she's a perfect human being any more or less perfect than I am or anybody else is. It just means that it goes back to what Byron Katie said. My perception of what's been happening is what's causing my suffering.
Mm-hmm.
So if something's happening inside, I'm suffering that I'm suffering over, it's because of my perception. And I can be mad at her and I can want to have her talk to me differently or treat me differently or be more forthcoming or whatever it would be.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually could make me feel better if she did. Gosh, if she would just say she was sorry, I might feel better for a minute. But now I have a dependency, almost an addiction, if that's the case. If that's what I set up in relationships, is that in order for me to feel okay, I need someone to take responsibility for making me feel unokay. That's a mess. That's a dysfunctional, unworkable mess, and it's an unending dysfunctional cycle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, so Kathy and I are celebrating 12 years of marriage by traveling from Spokane, Washington to Seattle. About a 4.5 hour drive. I love road trips, and we drive to Seattle. We go to an Airbnb, and she's got this agenda set out for what we're going to do for the next 4 or 5 days before we turn around and come back. And, it's all good stuff. It really is all good, happy stuff. What isn't good and happy is the tension that I feel in the passenger seat of her car being driven around Seattle to places I haven't fully chosen. Not her fault, mine. That I haven't fully chosen the activities that we're going to be engaged in. I'm kind of going along to get along.
I
And
see.
complying.
Mm-hmm.
The traffic is thick and scary for me and for Kathy. So she's got tension just from being in the traffic. I've got tension from not being in control. And
Everyone's got some form of tension.
there's tension, and the tension continues to build and build and build. And here we are trying to celebrate our 12-year anniversary, which is just such a wonderful thing. And yet we're not liking each other very much because there's this tension and we're not talking. And I'll just speak for myself. And in my mind, my parts are making it her fault.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got the capacity to be able to keep most of that down. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to be mean. I'm not going to be nasty. I'm not going to blame. I'm not going to pick a fight. But people are intuitive. We pick up, we sense each other's energy. She sensed my tension and my needing to control myself and hold back. And I sensed hers. Finally, day 5, we turn around as planned, and we're coming back to Spokane. And when we finally get out of Seattle traffic, in other words, when the external environment quit pushing so hard on both of our capacity to be with it, we both relaxed enough to be able to begin to have a conversation about how that 5 days had gone.
Huh.
And I brought it up and I said, let me just acknowledge that there's been a lot of tension between us on this trip. Something like that. Mm-hmm. And over the next, it was 20 minutes or so, it was kind of a difficult, scary conversation to acknowledge what had happened. Because what wanted to be said by some of my parts and maybe by some of hers was, whose fault was it? and who made this mess? And who's responsible for cleaning it up?
Which, I mean, and I think most people, their knee-jerk reaction would be, well, I'm good over here. It's your fault.
I've been suppressing all this stuff and I've saved you from me because it's your fault. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yet look at the saintly behavior on my part.
And even at times when I know it's me, like tension between me and somebody else, and I know it's me. I know that I'm not clean here. It's still hard.
Oh yeah.
It's still hard,
Well, if for example, if I admit it to any part of this, then she's just going to let me take all of it.
Right.
He's not going to take any responsibility at all. Now, this is coming from a part of me that tells that story, not based on any experience with her. She's demonstrated over and over again that she's willing to take responsibility for what she contributes to any kind of disconnection. So the ice is broken now. Some of the scary things that neither one of us wanted to say, we said. We acknowledged the hurts. We acknowledged the things that happened that hurt us. And then the conversation shifted, and I said, I'd really like to discover, to even if we have to create it ourselves, something that we can do so that this doesn't happen again. Other than being hermits and staying at home and never going out anywhere. Because at home, we do just fine. We have a little tension in the kitchen just because it's a relatively small kitchen. And
what do you think about not being home contributed to the tension?
The unpredictability of anything outside of these walls. Other people, traffic, weather, conditions. It's really safe here. We got a nice, safe, comfortable, predictable house, home, and life here in this home.
Okay.
And we don't let a lot of people into the home because the energy is sacred to us. And when somebody does come into the home, we pay really close attention to managing how that's going to go so that we can feel safe and comfortable and warm. And this does get into the topic I think that I want to talk about next week, unless something else comes up, and that is the capacity. I'll touch on it just briefly here, and that is that it appears that those of us that still have unhealed trauma are entering every single day with a diminished access to capacity to be with whatever shows up in life. Because there's so much going on inside that's being managed for us unconsciously and automatically. It's using so much of our capacity. And so both Kathy and I have nervous systems that are somewhat compromised by trauma. I won't speak for her and her trauma, but I'll just tell you that we're a good match. I've got X amount of trauma. She's got X amount of trauma. Our parts are busy managing all of that trauma for us. I'm working really, really hard to heal as much of that trauma as I possibly can. And I do it for a living and I help other people. And yet I have a diminished amount of capacity. So my nervous system, when it exceeds, when my experiences with the external world exceed the demands of my available capacity, I begin to get overwhelmed and dysregulated.
So a big part of you is busied with dealing with the outside world, and so there's less capacity to be with your wife, for example.
That's right. Or any minor irritation that might flare up.
That just reminds me of my dad coming home from work.
Yeah.
When he'd first come home from work, he was impossible. Once he got all that off his chest, I'd go out and play or go down in the basement. And then he blew up at mom and he got all that. Then, when we sat down to dinner, he's a little bit nicer to deal with, but he didn't have the capacity at first.
Yeah. So one way that he tried to restore capacity was to vent off some of that coiled up fear and anger. Yeah. It's an interesting, really interesting dynamic that I hope that we get a chance to discuss next week. But let me go back to my story. So we got through the ice. It was cracked. It was broken. We're swimming around in the cold water together, trying to survive it. And I make the suggestion, why don't we just create a process? And she said, do you have something in mind? And I said, yeah. I think that if we can maybe come up with a set of questions that we answer for ourselves, and then at least once a week get together and share our answers to these questions with each other, my theory is that it's going to create connection. And it'll address any tension that might build up. And I'm not saying we don't address that tension, that we only do that once a week. I'm saying that we do it once a week. And then my guess would be that once we begin to find out what works and what doesn't, it'll be comfortable to use it anytime throughout the week. But the commitment is once a week, we get together, we answer these questions, we share them with each other.
Might use it every single day on a trip to Seattle.
You're saying that if we were to engage in that process every single day when tension starts building up? Oh, absolutely. This would work. You bet. So here's the questions that she and I co-created together. on that trip back. So by the way, that, like I said, that's about a 4.5 hour trip. We began talking just the east side of Issaquah, and we were still talking in this conversation as we pulled up into our driveway in Liberty Lake, Washington on the east side.
Wow.
We start on the west side of the state, and by the time we get home on the east side of the state, we're still talking about it.
Wow.
And the reason we're still talking about it is because we are so connected. We're talking about things that have happened in the past, examples of how this tension has mounted, and how this process would have made such a difference if we'd had it and known to do it. So here it is.
Okay.
Prompt number 1.
Get out your pens, folks.
What is alive inside? Thank you, Marshall Rosenberg. What is alive inside?
Mm-hmm.
And so now it's been, I think I want to say it's been 8-9 weeks since we started this process. And I've got a notebook that says Kathy Connection on the front of it. And every week, Sunday morning, somewhere between the time I get up and noon, I fill out the Kathy Connection prompts. These 6 prompts for connection. And just answer whatever's alive in that moment. And it doesn't have to be especially what's related to Kathy, but what's alive inside for me right now? Well, I want to get back to editing my book. I can't wait to watch the Seahawks play this morning. I'm sad to see that the sun is going down sooner and coming up later.
So aliveness, so sadness is as much alive as happiness.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever's alive. I've got a pain in my lower back and I'm worried about it. I think I probably have cancer. I'm going to die. Whatever. I didn't mean to be flippant about that, but that's the way my parts think. Mm-hmm. I'm just reporting whatever's alive inside, whether it's valid or not.
Well, I was just getting clarity on aliveness because, some people might say, well, I feel there's more aliveness when I feel like going out and playing than there is when I'm feeling sad and lonely.
Mm-hmm.
But you want all of that. That all gets considered.
That's right. Yeah. The example that you just gave is, I feel more alive when I'm wanting to go out and play. Mm-hmm. There's sometimes what's alive inside is a deadness.
Okay, that's perfect. Yes, sometimes what's alive inside is a deadness. Okay, that's question number 1, prompt number 1.
Yeah. Prompt number 2, does anything feel unresolved right now? Now, this is, again, it's not specific to our relationship. Mm-hmm. But certainly we want to include anything that is specific to our relationship. So I only made it to page 40 on my edits today. I wanted to get to page 50. What feels unresolved is that I'm still waiting on an answer from my publisher, and I've been waiting for over a week. What feels unresolved is that something happened day before yesterday, and I said something to you, and ever since I said it, I'm wondering how that landed for you, and I just haven't asked because I guess I've been a little too scared to ask. Mm-hmm. Those are some examples. Mm-hmm. And this is the first of the prompts that has me, and actually this applies to every one of the prompts, is, do I have a request? So I'm sharing this with Kathy. I'm going to be sharing this with Kathy. I'm going to ask myself, given what's unresolved, do I have a request? An example of that would be, can we talk about what happened inside for you when I said that thing to you the other day? Mm-hmm. Another request might be, I have a request. I notice that my nervous system gets activated when you and I both take a break at the same time and we're both in the kitchen. And so my request is that either you be in the kitchen or I be in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. So I can manage my nervous system a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. Could it be something like, I'm so preoccupied and anxious about this job interview I have tomorrow, and I just like space. Like, just don't talk to me for 12 hours.
It could be, and that's going to activate probably something's going to come alive inside for her then at that point. And mm-hmm. and that's okay. That's really okay if that's what mm-hmm. the request is. Yeah. But that gets to our next one, which is what feels scary to talk about.
Good one.
That would be really a good time to bring up. Yeah, I have a part that thinks that really what I need, given the job interview that's coming up and that I'm so concerned about, is just space to myself.
Yeah.
And what feels scary about that is that I'm afraid you're going to take that personally and think that I think that you're a problem or that I don't want to be with you. When in fact, I just think that my nervous system needs very little input from anything and anyone.
Right. Got it. Feels scary to talk about. I mean, it'd be very easy to say, well, it's too scary.
Yeah. Or to not say it and keep it a secret.
Yeah, talk about something else.
Yes. Yeah. How about the Mariners?
So, is there any way to make sure that you're saying what's really, or is it, you just deal with what you can express at this time?
You do. You just do the best you can with it. That's what we're doing. It's just the best that we can, and we're learning how much we can trust each other. It seems like an odd thing to say because I've never trusted a woman more than I trust Kathy, ever. And yet it still feels too scary to say things sometimes.
Yeah, I had a client once who he was just blowing smoke at me for a number of weeks, and it just I was like, wow, it just didn't feel right. There was no more information forthcoming, but it seemed like there was something he wasn't talking to me about. Well, finally he came out about that he had been cheating on his wife, and it was too scary to talk about.
Oh,
until the time that it was no longer too scary to talk about.
yeah.
Yeah.
What's your story of true self-recovery? Would you be willing to share that as a guest on the True You podcast? We'd love to hear your story, and you'll find a guest application in the show notes. Now back to the show. Yeah, that may very well have happened finally because he trusted you.
Yeah.
At least maybe that was one element that came into it.
Yeah.
What would you say? You think that played into it, that he trusted you more by then?
Yeah, I'm very probably. Yeah. I can't read his mind. I didn't ask that, but probably. Yeah. So I think also that, well, never mind. Let's not get off on that. Go ahead.
So we've covered 3. What's alive inside? Does anything feel unresolved right now? And what feels scary to talk about? And the 4th is what needs to be said that hasn't been.
There was a 3rd one was, do I have a request?
Oh, do I have a request follows each of these.
Oh,
given what feels unresolved, do I have a request? Given what feels scary to talk about, do I have a request?
Gotcha.
Okay. So that I'm glad you pointed that out, because if we go back to what feels scary to talk about, I might have to make a request before I feel enough courage to talk about what feels scary.
Yeah.
The request might be, even if you have an internal reaction as I share this with you, can you hold it until I say the whole thing? Can you?
Yeah, well, that's better version of what I often hear is like, don't get mad at me when I tell you this. Oh shit, I'm already mad.
Well, you're craft. Yeah, exactly. You're going to tell me how to feel now, huh?
People do that to each other all the time. Now, I have to tell this to you, but I don't want you to get upset.
And don't tell anybody else. Now, and by the way, don't tell anybody else is a valid request, but a valid answer to that is then don't tell me.
Right.
Because I don't want the pressure of not telling anybody else.
Yeah.
If the only way you can share this with me is to have me keep it a secret, and you've been keeping it a secret, don't put that on me.
Right.
Of course, everything's, every circumstance is different, but
so we're up to question 4 then, right?
Yep. 4 is anticlimactic. It's what needs to be said that hasn't been. So if after what feels unresolved and what feels scary to talk about, you'd think, well, what's left for then to be said?
Yeah.
And I've never left that blank. What needs to be said that hasn't been? Sometimes all that's left, I have written, I haven't told you how much I love you lately. I haven't told you how much I appreciated that you did that thing for me the other day. I noticed when I told you I'd do the dishes and then went to bed, you washed them for me anyhow. Thank you.
Right. Or, this whole time that's been so scary to talk to you about this thing, I've just been, this is what my client said to me, actually, come to think of it. He said, I was so scared to tell you about it because um, uh, the conversation we were having over those couple of weeks was about integrity.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah.
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 And
Wow.
so now that I've told you the out integrity, I can tell you that, that's what was keeping me from saying, couldn't have said that before.
Yeah.
There is always more that needs to be said.
It seems like it. In fact, now that you say that, I'm wondering if maybe Kathy and I will challenge each other to find one more thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
What is one more thing that could be said? Maybe it's not necessary. Maybe it doesn't feel necessary, but what's one more thing that could be said that hasn't been said yet?
I realized that this tension isn't really about you, it's about the big city.
Yes. And that all came out, by the way, thanks to these questions. And we came up with some strategies for if we're going to do something like that again. And we didn't get very far. And she said, no, I don't want to do anything like that again.
Okay.
So then the discussion moved on to, and we'd like to get away sometimes. So what would that look like?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we talked about other ways that we could get away and actually have it be less stressful.
Got it. Excellent.
Which goes back to the capacity conversation again. So I'm sure that we'll be referring back to this conversation next week when we talk about capacity.
Okay. I have the capacity to do that.
What does your week look like? That seems like really flimsy, but there it is. What does your week look like? Between my wife and I, that's a really important question, turns out. Because my week impacts her and her week impacts me.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know you were going to be gone all day today. Well, yeah. And that's why I'm telling you now. My plan is
this huge presentation coming up, and it's probably affecting my mood and the way I'm in my patience right now.
Yeah.
Oh, didn't know that you had that in your calendar.
That and even physical presence. I'm planning on meeting with Joe, let's say at 10 o'clock at the coffee shop. And Joe and we get carried away. I might not be back till 1. Just wanted to let you know that's where I'm at and that's what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. This reminds me a little bit of a conversation that I had with my second wife. When I was playing the role of people pleaser, comply or die. I had this fear that she was just so fierce, and she was, but that I was going to do something wrong and that she was going to hurt me with her words if I did. And I was still busy guessing where the landmines were in that relationship, and I seemed like I always guessed wrong. So I thought I had this one handled pretty well, and I said, "Hey, would it be okay with you? I just got a call from Phil, and Phil wants me to go golfing on Saturday at 1 o'clock. Okay with you that I go?" And her response was, "What are you, my son? You think you have to ask my permission to go golfing?" I thought, oh, great. I said, well, I'm going golfing at 1 o'clock. And she says, what? You're just going to go golfing at 1 o'clock without talking to me about it? What? I can't win here.
She was kidding around?
No. And so I said, what? Isn't that what we're doing right now? And she said, you asked my permission as if you were a little boy. And then you just told me what you're going to do as if it has no impact on me. You going golfing when we have a little baby at home for 6 hours, right? That's how long it takes you to go golfing. You're just going to leave and you're just assume I'm going to take care of the baby and that I don't need your help. Yeah, that feels disrespectful.
I see. So what does your week look like? Can you give us some guidance? Is it just about sharing schedules?
Pretty much, although interestingly, because Kathy and I both work full time and we have so many outside of work activities that we're engaged in, when I look on Sunday morning at what Monday through Saturday or Monday through Sunday for the next week looks like, I realize, oh, there's I didn't talk to her about this. I need to talk to her about this. Oh, I need her help with that. Oh, this is going to have an impact on her.
Right. I'm
And,
not going to be here for 6 hours, and the baby might need being fed, and you're going to have to do it because I can't be here.
right. Or I can't be, or I want to be gone for 6 hours, and I realize that's going to have an impact on you, and you're going to need to take care of the baby. So I'm wondering if we can brainstorm how that could work out. Are you willing to do that? Do I need to arrange to try to get some help? Is it going to work for your schedule?
Interesting. Yeah.
And all that
So,
stuff can feel scary to talk about.
right.
So a lot of what does your week look like? And maybe what does my week look like should be something I walk into the harder conversations with first. Because now that we're talking about it right now, and you and me, Marty, what if that question was second question instead of the first one, or instead of the fifth one? What does my week look like? Now brings up all kinds of things that might feel scary to talk about, that need to be said, that feels unresolved.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take that suggestion and try it. Plans and expectations. That's what number 5 is all about. What does your week look like? Plans, expectations, impact, and requests.
Plans, expectations,
Impact.
impact, and requests.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And by the way, I want to mention too that more than just what's alive inside, Marshall Rosenberg and nonviolent communication has helped with this communication as well. Like, what feels scary to say is that I'm making up that when you pass me and don't say anything to me, that you don't like me very much. Is that what's going on? That's a nonviolent communication way to address a worry, concern, or fear that's going on inside without accusing or blaming the other person. I'm imagining that. I'm making up that. What a great tool that is. I get to take ownership of it. And part of owning it is, yes, I have this voice inside that is making up a story about you. So I'm just checking it out now.
Right. And if it's not true, then it's that person's responsibility to let it go.
Or yes, or do whatever they're going to do, and they can get mad. That certainly would make it hard to do that. That'd be one of those things that's scary to talk about. Yeah. But what this does is ask both partners to bring themselves and be fully responsible for their experience.
Right.
And to the degree that both partners can do that, and they're going to do it more. What Kathy and I have discovered is that we're more and more capable every week of doing this better. And then finally, number 6, and this, all those questions you noticed were questions. Number 6 is not a question. It is a prompt. Acknowledge our commitments to each other. And so out of these conversations come commitments. Oh, you're right. I did. I forgot to take the garbage out. And I told you that that's something I was going to do. And now we've got garbage piled up for 2 weeks. So my commitment to you is that I'm going to set an alarm on my clock and make sure that I never forget to do that again. That's my intention. Let's see how I'm doing on that. 2 weeks later, I haven't forgotten the garbage. 2 weeks later, I told you that when I began to feel some tension, that I wouldn't wait till Sunday, that I'd bring it up much, much sooner than that. And I feel like I've been doing pretty good at that. There was that time on Thursday that I felt this tension. I brought it up and it felt like it got resolved. How was that for you?
I can imagine the layers of commitment here too. Like, I don't know what I'm committed to around this tension that we've just talked about, but I do know that I'm committed to being married to you.
That's really great. I love that. And having you bring that up reminds me of something that you helped me to identify in terms of my commitments. I believe that we might have been talking about something that I had signed up for and was having a hard time fulfilling on. You asked me, who would I be? Who was I going to be moving forward? And you helped me identify 5 ways of being that I then wrote down and have had taped to my monitor ever since. I'm going to be grounded. I'm committed to being grounded, to being present, to being compassionate, to being discerning, and to being generous. And that's sitting here reminding me. So sometimes we kind of do need that structure to remind us of what we are committed to. That And that can be a commitment all in itself. I'm going to build some structure so I don't forget this commitment.
Right. Well, I don't know if you read my newsletter today,
I
but
didn't get a chance to.
I see. Well, I'm moving the newsletter from a closed group that I send an email to, through MailChimp. I'm moving it over to Substack. And I identify in the letter that I invite people to follow me over in, the certain things about, the tenor, the energy of that letter when it was initiated was all about, promoting my business and, stirring up some hype and getting things in motion, and that had that kind of, energy. And that my commitment now on Substack is contentment, compassion, but I forget, there were 4 things. Beauty is one of them. And so, like, that's what you can count on from me going forward. So acknowledging that commitment in the tone and of the newsletter.
Nice. That's great. Well, Marty, what else would you like to say regarding this topic?
Well, I just foresee somebody saying, well, when we talk in our coaching call, I can do all this stuff. That's fine. That's what I pay you for. But I don't see my wife or my husband. I don't see my spouse or this good friend of mine who I'm in the doghouse with. I don't see them wanting to sit down and answer these questions. Like, is there a way to soften somebody up, or is there an easier set of 6 questions?
That's great. I encourage anybody that is in that situation to modify these and maybe design questions that meet them closer to what their capacity is, what they're capable of, and what they feel maybe courageous enough to attempt. But let's have it be at least on the edge of or be slightly beyond the comfort zone, because otherwise we're just doing what we've always done.
Right. I know that I've had people, when I give them assignments in coaching, okay, go now and ask your wife these questions, or ask your boss these questions. Oftentimes, whoa, I don't think I could do that with them.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying, well, if you need to redesign them, but make sure that you're on the cutting edge of what you're saying, new things
Yeah.
to each
So yeah, make sure you're leaning in the direction of possibility rather than predictability.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if somebody felt still like, oh, I don't know, would you say do it anyway?
No.
Or
No, notice that there's an internal resistance to taking that action,
mm-hmm.
and make friends with the resistance. What I mean by that is bring attention to it, bring conscious awareness of it, just really notice and distinguish the nature of that resistance. What am I feeling in my body when I think about how challenging this might be for me? What thoughts do I have? What stories do I tell? What emotions am I experiencing? And what inside me is reacting to this, because I am not consciously creating this resistance. I'm not deliberately on purpose pushing back.
Right.
I might want to own that so I feel like I have some power over it, but acknowledge that it's real, that it's happening automatically, unconsciously, and that there's nothing that you can do to stop it as much as you'd like to.
Mm-hmm.
You can try to distract yourself. You can like go watch a ball game or turn on TV or go to the refrigerator and eat something and see if that takes care of it. But something inside has really got something to say. So I'm being asked, it's being suggested, Marty and Bill are saying, try these 6 prompts with my partner. That terrifies me. Okay, so maybe I'm not ready for that. Maybe what I can do instead is get curious about what part of me is terrified.
Mm-hmm.
What is the story that part has about what's going to happen if I try this?
Mm-hmm.
And then can I maybe use the IFS model or any other method to explore that and befriend the part of me that's trying to somehow, just know that part is somehow trying to protect me and is afraid that if I do this thing, something bad's going to happen. And then can I be grateful to that part for its efforts to help, to keep me safe.
Mm-hmm.
And now what question would I feel? What could I do to create more connection with my partner? First off, do I even want that? Do I even want more connection with my partner? Why would I? Well, and let me answer that. The reason I want more connection with Kathy is because that's what intimacy is. Even before anything physical happens, intimacy happens in the space between us, the energy that we exchange with each other. And if that energy is aligned, we feel connected. And if it's misaligned, we feel disconnected. And now I'm living along with another person that irritates the shit out of me.
This seems really, really important. I know we're coming close to the end, but I want to really underscore that, and this goes back to the navel gazing conversation.
Mm.
that that by examining what's going on inside you, if you're resisting these 6 prompts to restore connection, right? That there's a difference made when you're in connection with your own feelings. There's a connection that automatically changes toward the world.
Beautifully said. If we are connected internally, if we're connected with ourselves, then we have the capacity to connect with the world. And very often it just happens that we feel more connected with the world because we're more connected with ourselves.
Exactly.
However, it does require receptive. It does require someone to receive and be willing to exchange that connectivity.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. And if connection is what you want and you can't get that from a certain somebody.
Yeah. Well, then it's not going to hurt too bad because you're already connected to yourself.
Right.
And I kind of think that, and this is,
and you have a better idea as well of what the actual kind of connection is that you want and need.
Yeah.
So that you can articulate it in reality.
It's kind of like the not that thing. You know what you want? Not really, but it's not that.
It's not that.
And it's not that. It's not. Oh, it's that. I don't know until I discover it. And then once we discover, for me, a good example of this is that I lived my life at such a level of suffering that I didn't know that anything was possible for the longest time. I would have to say, honestly, for the first 46, 47 years of my life, I suffered most of the time. And to have an experience that was an outlier to that made me want more of that. I wanted more of that outlier of the absence of suffering, maybe even some joy every once in a while. And I began to notice after I learned how to go inside and work with that which caused my suffering in the first place, my thinking, that I started having some good days. I started really enjoying myself. I started having the capacity to be present. And it became more the norm that I wasn't suffering and less the norm that I was. And now I'm 70 years old, and in my life, I don't suffer hardly ever. And when I suffer, I don't suffer well. I find it really intolerable to suffer when I know what it's like to live a life where I'm not suffering.
Right. And just back to, and when you're not suffering, the world is there in a very, if you're connected in a new way.
That's right.
You know, I mean, that just like if I've had a really good connection with a client on a coaching call, and then I go out to do my grocery shopping or something, it just feels like I'm in love with everybody.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. You're Julie Andrews, just dancing to the grocery store.
Right. Julie Andrews was my dad's favorite actress.
Well, why not? She's great.
But it's different if if you're suffering, then you're like that Peanuts character that got the dirt around him all the time. Not Linus.
Well, it's not
Pigpen.
Pigpen. Thank you. Yeah.
Pigpen, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like there's this, you're not connecting because you've got this Pigpen around you.
That's a great image. All right. So
Thank
let me
you,
just
Bill.
let me
Thank
state
you.
these 6 prompts one more time, and then we'll go. I'm pushing it for time. Number 1, what's alive inside? Number 2, does anything feel unresolved right now? And do I have a request? Number 3, what feels scary to talk about? And do I have a request? Number 4, what needs to be said that hasn't been? And do I have a request? Number 5, what does your week look like? What does my week look like? Let's talk about plans, expectations, impact, and any requests that we have out of that.
Uh-huh.
And number 6, let me acknowledge my commitment to you. Let me acknowledge the commitment you made to me. Let's see how we're doing. Acknowledge our commitments to each other. Thanks for indulging me here, Marty. I just really love this conversation.
Oh, the thanks is on our side, all of us that are benefiting from the work that you and Kathy did so that we can all have more connection. Thank you.
You know what I never said this whole time that we talked, though, is the difference it made. You asked a question earlier. Does this navel gazing make any difference?
Mm-hmm.
We are connected, and we have remained connected now for the past 8-9 weeks ever since we began this. We have reconnected.
She's at your desk right now, just holding her so she doesn't say anything. She's connected to me.
We're feeling that connection, that intimacy that began to disappear, and that trip to Seattle really pointed out. I mean, that had already been happening before Seattle, but we didn't know how to acknowledge it or maybe even how to perceive it. So, okay. Thank you.
Have a good men's group.
Thank you. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
We appreciate who you are, that you would be listening to this podcast, and want to acknowledge all those parts of you that yearn for the experience of the true you.
If you like this episode, click like, share it with others, and be sure to subscribe. Listen again next week for the newest episode.
Check show notes for a transcript and a link to resources, including a link to let us know if you'd like to be a guest on our podcast.
Thank you for listening and going on this journey with us back to the true you.